I think unprecedented times call for unprecedented action.
It's really a new category of healthcare.
The point is that we're all embraced and loved by one another.
Today on Spotlight, a Swedish crime writer and the unique way she finds inspiration. Plus, online matchmaking is helping people find a family doctor. And then how St. Louis is becoming a geospatial hub. But first, a powerhouse collaboration because of COVID. It's Sunday and you're watching Spotlight.
The Songs of America series is just one way the St. Louis Symphony Orchestra is connecting with its audience during the COVID pandemic. As musicians play, vocalist Melina Smith sings from a healthy 6 feet away.
It's a great time to be a creative organization in some ways because this time requires immense creativity. And things have been, believe it or not, quite busy, even without having live public concerts.
But there will come a time when the beautiful Powell Hall and other theaters will again be filled with live performances. That's why the Symphony is joining more than 20 large venues to form the Missouri Art Safety Alliance.
At the very top of the pandemic, a group of area funders came together to, one, learn from each other about how we could align our resources, where the needs were at, and then to create some call to actions that we could immediately tackle.
With its own 8 venues being varied in size and scope, the Kranzberg Arts Foundation had to come up with universal measures in its operating plans. During that process, leaders realized a collaboration among all art venues was in order.
We're only as good as our weakest link. So if the small venue isn't prepared and the large one is, when the guest goes to the small venue, it sours the entire ecosystem. So we had to preserve and protect the whole arts ecology. And so it really was about lifting up those that have less resources and making sure that it was a fair and even playing field for being prepared and being safe.
You might call it a powerhouse collaboration with big names at the table. Along with the Kranzberg Arts Foundation and the Symphony, you've got the Repertory Theater, the Muni, Craft Alliance, COCA, and more. Kansas City cohorts include the Nelson Atkins, Kemper, and Starlight Theater. Regional arts and civic leaders are also included.
It is a very dynamic network. It's the largest, most dynamic table set that's ever come across the state of arts institutions across discipline.
Enhanced sanitation, hygiene. All venues and workspaces should undergo professional deep cleanings.
The Missouri Art Safety Alliance agreed to adopt a common set of universal practices that can be followed by both the largest and smallest art venues. The Alliance will share information through 2 websites, stlartsresources.org and MissouriArtSafe.org.
As we prepare for opening, let's discuss the 8 strategies to create safely, present safely, and attend safely.
The website includes training videos like this one that members can share. The Alliance will also offer a safety certification. Missouri venues with the safety certification will make specific pledges to implement specific safety protocols. Some of them will be obvious to patrons, others will be behind the scenes.
Increased sanitation and hygiene, new dress codes with face coverings, socially distant protocols, contactless public experience procedures. You've got contact tracing procedures, health screening and temperature check procedures, work from home and new HR policies that you need to address, and then social distancing measures that you need to make sure that you can reinforce and that you can clearly define.
The groups involved say their plan is not an endorsement or pledge of reopening live performances. It's simply shared plans that will help when the time is right.
The entire audience experience, not just what they're listening to, but everything that happens in front of house, from the time you park to whenever you come in and enjoy food and beverage or whatever it is in this experience. Everything we do is based on trust. So we are going to make sure that we continue to maintain and even strengthen that trust with our audience as it relates to health and safety.
With so many arts organizations joined together, there is hope the Art Safety Alliance can become a mechanism to meet future needs.
I think unprecedented times call for unprecedented action, and the work doesn't stop there. We're seeing the need well beyond COVID mitigation and the pandemic, and we need to make sure that we're continuing to bring our voices together, listen, and then act.
Here we
Follow HEC Media on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
In Europe, she's royalty. The Queen of Crime, a title bestowed shortly after her first best-selling thriller, The Ice Princess, was released in 2003. Since that time, Camilla Lackberg's given her fans plenty more to love, including 9 more in that crime fiction series, several short stories, 2 cookbooks, and 9 Super Charlie children's books. Plus, she's written songs, created a soap opera, is part owner of a jewelry company, a co-founder of an investment company focused on women, and she starred on Sweden's Dancing with the Stars. As the number of her projects has grown over the years, so has her popularity.
It's strange sometimes. I'm always in the gossip magazines and with ridiculous articles sometimes. You know, the kind of articles where they write that I've given birth to a two-headed alien kind of articles.
Now, with more than 26 million copies of her books sold, the mother of 4 is changing it up a bit, drawing on some of her favorite titles of the past to write a novel that is steamy.
I'm getting flushed just talking about it.
And the heroine, named Faye, is a smart, sexy entrepreneur who embodies girl power. Sound like anyone you might recognize?
There are some stories in there that are from my own life. I can't tell you which ones. That's for me to know and the reader to guess, but there are some things that I have borrowed from myself.
But when it comes to vengeance...
Oh, have I fantasized about revenge? Yes, I have.
Lackberg uses those fantasies and her love for true crime to create a stay-up-past-your-bedtime kind of thriller.
I mean, it's my passion, it's my hobby, and it's such a gift to be able to have your hobby as your job. It's the best.
Let me tell you, I finished that book just a couple of days ago, and holy cow, the ending.
Don't spoil it, don't give it away.
I won't spoil it, only to say that it is so good. So good.
Thank you so much.
So I have to wonder, when you set out in writing this book, did you have that ending that you knew that was how it was going to end, or did that just come to you? How did that work?
I didn't know the exact details of the ending. I never do when I write my books, but I knew, approximately. I knew the destination I was going in.
Well, it seems like in your books, there's a lot of, it's a psychological thriller. You're really seeing, all sides of a person. It's really building a character, it seems.
Yeah, I'm very, very interested in psychology, and especially the dark sides of human nature. And I've always read a lot of books, even as a child, about profiling, about psychopaths, about the psychology behind serial killers. So I've really always been very interested in finding out why people do these things. And that is something that always comes across in my books. I always try to explain and the reader doesn't have to sympathize with the murderer, but at least I want the reader to understand why he or she did this.
Where do you find the space, or where do you have to go to? Do you have to quiet your mind to get these stories to come out, or what do you do to get yourself in the right place to have these stories come out?
Netflix. No, but it's a mix of, I do enjoy reading books, but I'm a big TV and movie fan. My husband and I, we watch so many TV series. We usually watch like 8 at the same time that we follow. And I just think it's so relaxing. If I've been writing a whole day, I just think it's great to watch a really good TV series. Action series, crime series, Documentaries. I do love a good documentary. At the moment, we're watching the documentary about Michael Jordan, and I also watched Athlete A about the scandal with Dr. Nasser, with the gymnastics Olympics team of the U.S. So I do love documentaries, but I'm so much looking forward to season 2 of Dirty John. It's about the Betty Broderick case. I've just been obsessed with the Betty Broderick case for so many years. So for me, that is relaxation. And cook. I love to cook. I can cook for hours. And my husband is an MMA fighter, so he has to have like weight goals to and he's complaining. He said it was so much easier to keep his weight goals before we met, because I'm a feeder. Yeah, I have to admit, I'm a feeder.
Well, thank you so much. This has been a lot of fun talking with you. I've really enjoyed our time together.
Thank you so much.
Text Lackberg to 31996 to watch the full interview or download our Talking with Authors podcast.
HEC Media presents Talking with Authors, the podcast. Your favorite writers and genres with diverse subjects and styles. Like New York Times bestselling author Brad Meltzer, crime writer Karen Slaughter, Charles Fishman, Sarah Kendzior, Judy Bloom. With new podcasts dropping bi-weekly. Subscribe to Talking with Authors wherever you get your podcasts. From HEC Media, Left Bank Books, and the St. Louis County Library.
Having someone who shares common interests and hobbies, as well as personal goals such as health and fitness, may be important for a lasting relationship. So how about the idea of finding a primary doctor who's a great match for you?
Your perfect match might live in Nebraska, right? It's perfect for you. This doctor's like would have been your best friend had you met in person. And that person might live in Nebraska, but it's really a new category of healthcare.
Guy Friedman is co-founder and CEO of SteadyMD in St. Louis. He wants people to know they don't have to be limited to the doctors in their zip codes.
We're a technology platform which allows patients and doctors to develop long-term personal relationships between each other.
He developed the idea from professional and personal experiences.
The doctors actually want to build a relationship with you, but the system doesn't allow it. And I found the process really disappointing in terms of wait times, the time you get to spend with the doctor, and the whole system is designed around this idea of when you get sick, we're available. But what I really was looking for was a relationship with the physician for the long term that I could interact with and develop almost a friendship and a trust with. And I didn't really see that product out there.
Through the SteadyMD platform, Friedman says a 90-second quiz will generate a match.
You submit criteria about your lifestyle, your health, your diet, any conditions you have, exercise habits, and we take our database of doctors, and based on what you've clicked on and told us about yourself, we find doctors that are perfect fits for you.
Then once you start,
you have a 1-hour video call with that doctor. So you get to know them, they get to know you, and really develop a trust and relationship on that call. And then from that point forward, you have access to that same dedicated doctor.
The idea is taking off. Friedman says there's a growing need for virtual healthcare. And right before the pandemic, the startup raised $6 million to expand. Friedman believes everyone can benefit. One example is the connection between athletes and doctors who both know the sport and goals.
It's like, I can talk to this guy. He understands me, understands my culture, my lifestyle. And his goal in life is not just to get me out the door with some generic advice.
Dr. Scott Soris is SteadyMD's medical director. He's board certified in family practice and works part-time as an ER doctor in Missouri. He enjoys the opportunity to help patients like Linda Richmond, who live in remote areas. She's in New Mexico.
Also, I have a handful of patients that live in Alaska, who are hundreds of miles from any nearest healthcare facility.
When a physician becomes part of SteadyMD, how does that kind of open up the world for them when it comes to their ability to reach and help even more people?
We have a physician who's a runner, a physician who's a triathlete. We have a handful of physicians who do CrossFit. And so then they're able to reach out into those communities and offer their medical services and advice and expertise in those areas and have a much larger impact than if they just, were trying to reach out to runners just in their local geographic area.
As an ER doctor, Sori sees a lot of people who wish they had guidance before showing up. Through SteadyMD, he says he can help guide patients who aren't sure if they need urgent or emergency care.
Go ahead and send the picture in the chat program.
With the immunosuppressants that I take, that's a bit concerning.
Yeah, I agree. That looks enough concerning. I think we should probably get you set up with a specialist to get a biopsy.
The doctors also order prescriptions and lab tests.
Part of the blood test will check for the blood sugar, and that's only a 6-hour fast.
Online visits are not processed through insurance. Instead, patients pay a monthly fee for unlimited interactions.
Our vision is very unique and disruptive. And I think it's a huge idea that is global. It's a universal need to connect with a doctor and have a relationship with them.
Music helping the LGBTQIA+ community later on Spotlight.
So geospatial is our ability to put social, economic, environmental, and ecological data on a map to better understand what's happening in cities, suburbs, across cities, across states, across countries.
We're building out the data that mapping application is reaching back into to give you that location intelligence.
Everything we do involves geography in some way. We just don't think about it.
Geospatial was already a growing sector in St. Louis in 2015 when the National Geospatial Agency announced their $1.75 billion new campus would be built in North St. Louis.
NGA is going to be here, and they're going to be opening their doors in 2025 to a beautiful new facility. There's going to be stuff that's already happening in and around that.
The announcement of the new NGA campus jump-started an effort from St. Louis civic, regional, and business leaders to make St. Louis a national leader and Midwestern hub for the geospatial industry. Andy Deering is leading that effort, a working group made up of industry and regional leaders called the GeoFutures Initiative. Their role was to put together a strategic plan.
It's an emerging industry. It's been around many years, but it's an emerging industry, especially as you think about where businesses are going and the business advantage to location intelligence.
It's coming. There's nothing you can do to stop it. It's coming, and it'll be here before you know it.
The GeoFutures plan was released in June of 2020 and has 5 main priorities, including branding St. Louis as a national hub and a global thought leader, and ensuring that there is community-led development surrounding the new NGA site over the next 10 years.
What you're going to start seeing is the pull from other non-government organizations and what they're doing in the geosciences as well. Transportation logistics and starting to become an emergence of geospatial or location tech there, and also around agriculture and the biosciences.
WashU, Webster University, we're all trying to collaborate and go forward and promote St. Louis.
Geospatial is intersecting with every industry in some shape or form. From looking at where to open the next branch office, or your new idea for a coffee shop, to where all your clients are and how to determine which health home care workers to send where, or where a sales rep's territory should be, and so many more diverse applications.
There's so many different career paths, right? You can use geospatial and location intelligence in a lot of other fields. And so if we're the geospatial hub, I just think that all of the companies that are doing different things, or even all of the other verticals or technology, they can still be leveraging the fact that they've got great resources here in St. Louis so that they're solving their problems from a location intelligence perspective and having that competitive edge that other people don't necessarily have the access to.
Fast forward 10 to 15 years, everybody will know, and they're coming to St. Louis for our location tech talent.
Our CEO, Jack Dangerman, was here last April when they had the GeoResolution conference. He's like, I have never seen a community with the elected officials and leaders getting so involved. Of all my 50 years, I've never seen a city, a location, actually care this much about geospatial technology.
This is the long game, and we're ready to play the long game.
Learn more about the growing geospatial sector in St. Louis by visiting hecmedia.org.
Go to hecmedia.org for the arts and authors,
Completely accidental because I never set out to write a book.
science and history, culture and community,
It's considered to be the oldest organic farm west of the Mississippi.
education, films.
Finding the coin places the site firmly in the 13th century.
What's happening now around St. Louis and more. See for yourself at hecmedia.org.
Like everybody else in the entertainment space, all of our plans for this year were put on hold by the coronavirus. We decided to pivot to something that might work. So we kind of based this event off of what we thought could work within the city's lockdown guidelines. So no gatherings of more than 10 people, people keeping social distance, but outdoor walks and things like that being allowed. And we have this fantastic home here in Forest Park. We decided to see if Forest Park was open to letting us expand kind of out of Shakespeare Glen here and spread out a little more. And it started as kind of the idea of just having some art installations here or there that might, tell the story of Midsummer Night's Dream, and expanded into this much bigger thing involving almost 31 artists every night from all different organizations. It's featuring Shakespeare Festival actors, Shakespeare Festival creators, but also artists from Painted Black STL, and artists from all kinds of different organizations in St. Louis. We have Opera Theater of St. Louis represented, Big Money Dance Company, Jazz St. Louis, the Improv Shop, among many others. So it's a lot of who's, but principally it's a 1.5 mile long walking tour with 15 different stops featuring clowns and singers and actors and dancers and musicians and all sorts of great things. We have 16 performances every night basically, and each group's little bit is only 2 or 3 minutes, so they're doing it 16 times for 16 different tours. Those are all unfortunately filled up, but what we're offering is, since the park's here all the time and the art installations are here all the time, the entire month until September 6th, you can come here and you can walk the path. There's a map on our website. You can walk the path of the arches, and we've created an audio companion, which there's QR codes, and on our website there's downloadable links to these different pieces of audio, but it's St. Louis-based actors doing little moments from Midsummer Night's Dream with music paired with it that sort of hits the themes of that part of the show. We've been out here the last 4 days erecting these art installations in the park. People are, sitting there with their kids and trying to figure out what it's in reference to, even before knowing what this is or that it's Shakespeare related or anything. People are taking pictures and posting them on the internet. It's really, the art installations are the soul of this project to us. What Painted Black was able to organize their artists to do is just so special, and it's so exciting to get that artwork out here in the park. And it's really a can't miss thing.
So these artists range in age. Our youngest, actually a student. We wanted to make sure we gave opportunities to just different artists across the board and across experience levels.
For her to even have a level of exposure to sort of more seasoned artists and older artists, is something that, as an artist and designer, I wish I would have had at 17, 18. What I really admire about a few sort of arches throughout the way is the performances paired with each one.
They just melted so well together without ever meeting each other, knowing each other. It wasn't like a collaborative, this is what we're gonna do. They all took that scene and, they're doing different things, but they just come together so well.
Happening now through September 6th. Visit stlshakes.org. Follow HEC Media on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Community bands give lapsed musicians an excuse to dig their old instruments out of the closet. But for members of this community band, it's not just their instruments that have come out.
We allow straight people in the band. We don't hold that against them.
It's called Band Together, and it's open to anyone who can play an instrument. But it was initially formed to give members of the LGBTQ+ community a safe place to play music and a place just to play.
It's a hugely social thing. Hugely.
1, 2, ready, and.
Gary Reynolds first put Band Together in 1997. The goal was simply to march in the St. Louis Pride Parade. And they did. And they have ever since. But today, what started with just 10 musicians is now a roster of 170, and the people on the list are as diverse as the music the band performs.
Earlier, it was probably more 2/3 men and mostly gay. Now, I would say we probably have about 30% are straight allies, which has been a real nice change.
Everybody's entirely welcoming, and we're just a big family.
Annie Tikacek is one of those straight allies, but she says she's had to face some of the same difficulties as many of the gay and lesbian members of the band, simply because she is in the band.
My mom has kind of given me a side eye, just being like, make sure you don't tell your uncle, or, like, don't invite him, he wouldn't want to go.
In the first 5 years of the organization, it was not uncommon for me to have members ask that they didn't have their name listed in the program. When we would march in the Pride Parade, they would ask if they could be positioned in the middle and not on the sides, so that way if the news was covering the parade, that they wouldn't be on camera.
At the Mardi Gras parade in 1998, they ended up needing a police escort to finish the route.
We had balloons that had filled with helium that lined our float, and this person came by with a cigarette and started popping each of them, and he said, "You're all a bunch of." And just then, one of my band members stood up and stopped playing, and I thought, this is it, we're about to all be in a big fight. And right then, the police happened to show up and escorted us the rest of the way. We appreciate where we are now so much more, because that was less than 20 years ago.
To think of Band Together as just a band for the gay and lesbian community is not only inaccurate, it's selling it short.
We have a good sound. I mean, this is a good band.
Some people who have memories of their high school bands, and there's a lot of high school bands that are, well, because it's high school. When I came around, there were about 25 people or so, maybe 30 at the most, and it was a young band. Pieces that we perform easily now was a challenge back then. Now, we can sight read pieces that I don't even know if the band could have done back then. So they've grown musically as well as in size and ability, but we still have all ability levels within the band.
Band Together is more than just a community band. It's a community, a diverse family, playing in unison on stage and off.
2 years ago, I had a really horrible thing happen. I had a mistaken surgery, and I was on the edge, to say the least. This family helped pull me through.
The point is that we're all embraced and loved by one another. It's just a very safe and loving space.
Thanks for watching Spotlight. Join us next week as we tell you about the new Supreme Court ruling that finds a large portion of Oklahoma under the jurisdiction of Native American tribes. And see how artists in North St. Louis are creating an outdoor gallery using doors. We'll see you Sunday at 9:30 a.m. on KPLR 11.